Hi guys, how are you doing? I am just wanting to send you a short message to say thank you so much for all of your support leading up to the libel trial. I can't really say much about it because for obvious reasons, but it was quite an intense and grueling and difficult experience. And I think I got ill on the Monday straight after. So I think that was just the stress of that coming out. I got ill with a bug, which flattened me, floored me even. And it did strike me that a couple of years ago, they would have shut down the whole world economy for it, and I'd be currently in quarantine like Piers Morgan is on his show. Anyway, seems to be that I survived it yet again, if it is what it is. But mainly just a huge thank you, because I think it's difficult, but it's important to try and push back against this idea that just by slandering someone in the most awful way possible, you shut them up and you say you're not allowed to take part in this conversation. And also I find it profoundly, well, let's talk about Nihal. I can't pronounce his surname, sorry, that probably makes me a racist, does it? On BBC Radio 5, he says that he goes into the BBC and there's too many white people there. And it's like, that's, my frustration with all of this identity politics stuff. And, A, is that skin colour has just become so important to everybody, which is just so boring. Sorry, I know that everyone gets upset when I say it's boring, but it is boring. Because what is interesting is what goes on underneath someone's layers of skin, which is like, how much that? And then we're just people, all of us. And that's the argument I make. So I find let's put it this way. If a white-skinned person had turned up and said, I just can't deal with this, there's too many brown and black people here, they'd be out of the job in 30 seconds or less. So there's a bit in Douglas Murray's book, Strange Death of Europe, where he says something along the lines of, we're not on our own side anymore. And I'm starting to think this is a major problem, because those that are our ideological foes, if you will, who want to see skin colour and division in everything, and who celebrate that and think it's really important and want to create hierarchies of, skin colour, as we see with bus drivers who won't stop for Jewish kids in London because they're now white supremacists in some way because they happen to be whiter in whatever stupid world that identity politics does. If we don't stand up against this stuff, it's going to carry on. This guy's on 150, 200 grand a year for the BBC. He can say openly racist things, and he can do it with impunity. So I think we need to start calling these people out, starting to write to the BBC and saying, I found that grossly offensive. I mean, look, I'm not obviously trying to make it about me, but look at the furore when I said I didn't want to shag someone. Look at the furore that was caused. I lost my job. I was immediately, it was like thrown to the wolves. Now that's fine. As we've been through in previous chats, I have, I didn't word myself or phrase myself very well, but the point I was making was made. But then this guy can just pop up out of nowhere and say, there's too many white people, I find it intimidating. It's like, sack him, cancel him. Remove him from his job, because otherwise you're allowing and promoting racism from certain ethnic groups. Now that's really bad for people from those ethnic groups who don't want to be looked down on and seen like there's something wrong with them and they need saving by us great white liberals who, understand. And as Malcolm X said, there's no greater danger to the black man than the white liberal. And I think he was absolutely right. And we do need to hang on to these things of content of character, head of colour of skin. So why Nihal doesn't have a right to speak for other brown people or people of different ethnicities, saying that he's somehow intimidated by white people? What about people who are not white, who just get on with their lives and live like the overwhelming majority of us do in this country, where we don't care about what colour your skin is, we care about the content of your character? I think it's just the most important thing to keep our society cohesive and together. Anyway, that's that. Thank you for your really lovely, I can't tell you how much it means to get nice messages, because I don't usually go into my replies, as I said before, as a bit of a dumpster fire, but people really had my back, and my friends, they on a rota came to call every day, and there was always someone there, and my partner was there, and that was really great. And that was profoundly moving. And my number two here was sat in every day, and he said, God, I'm exhausted myself. And I didn't even have to do anything. It wasn't about me. Anyway, it's done. And I am now coldy, and hopefully I haven't got the thing. Anyway, in other news, just to catch you up, we had the event on Monday. I couldn't attend for reasons I can't even go into. It's amazing how gagged I am at the moment. For someone who cares about free speech, there's a lot of things I'm not allowed to speak about. So I was not available to go on Monday, but Andrew held the event in the House of Parliament, and a lot of MPs came. Not less than 17 MPs turned up. So, you know, that's much more than he's ever had. You know, usually Andrew's talking to House and they're all going, get out, shh, we don't want to talk about this, we'll talk about anything else. But he actually, 17 turned up, and do you know why they did? Because you all wrote to your MPs, and they felt that they needed to come. And there is definitely a growing sense amongst those members that are smart enough to want to actually hold on to their seats that this does need addressing. We shut down our economy for 2 years, and we're looking at an excess deaths situation, which is totally not on par with what we should be expecting. So thank you for writing to your MPs. And a lot of very eminent people in the field of looking at the excess deaths and looking at the treatments used in tackling COVID were there. Pierre Corey was there, I think Robert Malone was there, Angus Dalgleish, lots of, you know, the top people, Peter McCullough and various, and it went well. And I think, having been the first party via the brilliant Andrew Bridgen to get a debate, even albeit a short one, on excess deaths, it looks like we're heading towards a proper debate on excess deaths in the new year. So that's amazing. It's been interesting watching the destruction of the Conservative Party, getting rid of itself, and watching Suella Braverman, who, you know, is just talks common sense. They fire her, and then they start saying the same thing she's saying. But I think the electorate seem to be running out of patience with politicians saying something. And a taxi driver said something to me the other day, which was really interesting. He said, "We've never been asked. No politician, no political party has ever been asked whether we want uncontrolled, unfettered immigration into this country." And that's not to say immigration's a bad thing. I don't think immigration is a bad thing. I don't think anyone in Britain would say immigration's a bad thing. But we are a welfare state. So if you have uncontrolled immigration, you're going to put so much pressure on the welfare state that the welfare state can no longer function for the people that are already here. And also the people who are going to suffer the most from uncontrolled immigration are the most recent arrivals who are already, you know, starting at the bottom and trying to build themselves up. So I just think we've got to, when they say stop the boats, if that means leaving the ECHR, then get out, leave, do a British human rights bill, you know, and just make sure that it serves Britain, and it doesn't serve, you know, a million odd people coming into our country every year, which is ridiculous, and it's unsustainable. And we've seen the tensions that it causes on the streets of London, because if people come in so many in such numbers, it's so difficult to assimilate. So I was saying, I think we need to stop the boats properly, stop the boats, just send them back. France is a totally safe country. What's wrong with France? Go back to France. It's a safe country, and stop in the first safe country that you've got. So people would just say that's racist, but I heard Hillary Clinton say the other day that if you didn't believe in climate change, you were a racist as well. Anyway, so that's good. Bridgen's managed to do that, and that's very brave, and I'm very grateful for our for the fact that we have the Reclaim Party, and we have him, and we have that voice in Parliament, because I know it matters a lot to all of you. And it would be great to see the Conservatives start listening to what we're saying, because people really care about what we're saying. So I think, you know, stop immigration for 5 years, uncontrolled immigration. Obviously, there's legitimate immigration, which should be allowed. And obviously, Britain should be a sanctuary for genuine refugees, but economic migrants, you know, we can't handle them. Our health service can barely handle our population as it is, so let alone a million extra people. Let's get rid of diversity, equity and inclusion. Let's ban it. Because diversity, equity and inclusion, and the ideas of things like anti-racism and all the stuff that Ibrahim Kendi comes out with by saying that whiteness is in some way a disease and some terrible affliction, that's wrong. And Britain should stand wholeheartedly against that. So we need to get rid of that, diversity, equity and inclusion. It's wrong and it's anti-British. And also we need to get rid of ESG. Get rid of it. Environmental social governance. It's absolutely wrong. And we need to make sure that we reclaim our institutions, starting with education. Because any of you parents out there, once you get sent the third-party providers, including the BBC, who is one of the main third-party providers, for what's being taught to children in school is unbelievable. It's really, really bad, and we need to get rid of it. Hence why we're doing our case against the Department of Education, for which I will have an update for you soon. It seems commonsensical, rather than to always just ban things and say, we've got to get rid of that, we've got to get rid of that, we've got to get rid of that, to what we promote. And, you know, forgive me for being an old fuddy-duddy, but I think we should be promoting the family. I've been watching this this sort of trend on the internet of going, I'm a dink. And a dink, I don't know what it stands for because I haven't got too into it, but basically it's saying I'm never going to have kids and I'm just going to spend my money on myself selfishly, which I think is fine. Your sole purpose on this planet was to reproduce another generation and the great fulfillment that comes with that. And you're just going to waste your life. It's their choice, and I believe in freedom of choice, but it's a reflection of how sad society is in exactly the same way as the rising anti-Semitism is always a reflection of where society is. Victor Davis Hanson made a really good point about this when he said that Britain and America and the West more broadly is starting to resemble Weimar Germany, you know, a kind of decadent, peculiar place that led to a rise in anti-Semitism, and then we all know what happened after that, which is appalling. So I think we should see these as red flags in our society, and that's caused directly by diversity, equity and inclusion, which means non-diversity. Equity, we all know what that means. It's not equality, it's equity. It means bureaucratically forcing everyone to have exactly the same outcomes in their lives, which is just totally anti-nature, anti-everything. So we should promote the family. And we need to, the other thing is this transgender issue. We need to be supporting and promoting and encouraging women. And not allowing their sports and everything to be, and safe spaces and identities to be totally erased by men with mental health disorders. At the end of the day, that's what they have, and we certainly shouldn't be encouraging our children to do it. It's a sign of real decadence in our societies. So we should promote that. We should promote a reduction in the size of the state as well. I think there should be a cap. I said we should reduce the size of the state by 80%, but I think probably if we all agreed that the state should never be more than 40% of the country's output, then I think that would be really good. It doesn't seem to me too difficult to fix if the Conservatives turned around and started saying some conservative things, like they've started making noises now. Kemi Badenoch's brilliant, Suella Braverman's brilliant. And hopefully the Conservatives will get back on track, because we need that tension in politics between the left and the right, because they're never going to go anywhere. And there is no utopia that the left have tried to take us into. And it's really telling that America has got very, very tired of this. I always look over to America. America has had enough of woke. You can really sense it. And you could really, I'm really sensing in the UK that we've had enough of woke as well. And I think we should declare an all-out war on woke. And the way to do it, the key into the lock of the woke matrix, is comedy. It's to laugh at them, because their whole ideology is so unbelievably ridiculous and racist, to be honest. The anti-racists are still racist. They just call themselves anti-racist. Doesn't make any difference. And prejudicing one skin colour group ahead of another, and to create this oppressor-oppressed narrative is really just dreadful. And it's anti-democratic, it's anti-liberal secular democracy, and it's anti-everything. And I think we should also, promote the values that this country was known for and stands on, which are equality under the law, fairness and freedom of speech. I've often said, people say to me, where are you standing? Who are you standing? When are you going to do it? And the more time I spend doing this, the more time I think, you know what? I'm not sure there's a political solution to this problem. It's a cultural problem that we've got. We've got one ideology pitted against another ideology, and the battlefield is our culture, hence the term culture wars. So, whilst I admire those even myself included, who've tried to stand for elective office and all of that sort of stuff, you are playing them at their own game. Their first past the post system, you're never going to win, as we saw with UKIP and all that sort of stuff. And whilst I admire those that do it, I don't think that's the way we're going to create change. I think the way we're going to create change is by all of us standing up and making the biggest noise possible about the things that we care about the most and badgering our MPs about that. That's how we're going to create change. And that's how we're going to force the Conservatives to be conservative, because they're about to get absolutely hammered in a general election because they're not Conservative. Even though they got £30 million in donations, Labour got 3 million and the Reform Party got 20,000 quid. So it doesn't seem to be that like there's a strong appetite for a new and insurgent party. If we were in proportional representation, perhaps that would be a different ballgame. But I think we all have to stand up, and that's why I mentioned comedy. And, to mock the woke virus and to get it out of people's heads is just to say we find it hilarious. And, it's a phase and it's a fad and you'll grow out of it, darling. And then on a final note, I get, as I've said to you guys before, I get a few free taxi rides because the black cabbies are such good, they're such good weather vanes as to how London has changed. They've obviously been driving these streets for years. And this driver said to me the other day, which I thought was really interesting, because they're often very, very smart people. He said, how many people do you think actually went out and run the British Empire? And I went, I've absolutely no idea. He went, 200,000. And I went, wow. And he went, it wasn't like colonising. We had to work with the people there. He said, how many people came into England last year, to Britain last year? 1 million. It's different. And I thought that is food for thought. So anyway, I just wanted to touch base, and sorry for rambling. I'm on a head full of COVID. Thank you for your continued support. And people drew attention to a tweet I made yesterday, and more to come on that, because there are some parts of this country which have major problems, which are very easily solvable. And they will be addressed as I formulate the plan with the brilliant team via the legal, political and media aspects of what we try to do and have been effective in doing. So you have a lovely rest of the week and an enjoyable weekend. And if you think spending your life alone and spending all your money on yourself is going to make you happy, I can promise you you're wrong. Have babies, be happy, and God bless.